Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. This is the Wandering Son podcast. So for anybody that doesn't know you, I just want to give people a quick little rundown of who you are. So Brandon Anthony, you are the founder of a new nonprofit called the Dream Pact. You're an ethical engineer, an excellent communicator, a community leader, a dear friend, and probably one of the smartest guys I've met. And that's like legit. And I think a lot of people will see. Nah, it's legit. Um,
Nah,
nah, it's super legit, man. And
I really appreciate the compliments. I mean, honestly, humbly, I receive them.
I want to get like right into it, man. I always love testimony. I think one of the most important things when we talk to anybody as Christians or just individuals, period, is really knowing our testimony and where we've come from. Because a lot of times we can shy away from it and paint this perfect picture of who we are now, right? And so I would love to just understand, man, like what are some of those things that you've gone on, like that have happened in your past that have shaped, who you are today?
Fantastic question. As I was trying to sort of just get mentally prepared for this interview, I was thinking to myself a lot of those exact same questions. Who am I? Where am I? And what is the testimony? But, in reality, like we all, and I'm talking about as Black Americans, we all started off as, the son of slaves, right? And that was my introduction to Christianity, this was something that was, impressed upon my ancestors, shoved down their throats and, used to keep them extremely docile during slavery and, then the civil rights movement and things of that sort.
Yeah.
So, when I was born, luckily I'm not fully just Black American. I'm, basically like first generation on, my mom's side. I mean, and, my grandfather, he was able to impress upon us just, opening our mind to a lot of different religions.
Yeah.
So, even though my grandmother on my father's side is very religious, born in South Carolina, church 6 times a week, I was able to, expand out and, learn some about, Islam, Buddhism, different practices. And eventually, find my way back to being able to say like, okay, this is going to be my understanding of Christianity and, the way that I'm going to have it work for me, in my future.
I love when people have gone through that process. You know what I'm saying? Of okay, I've experienced this, I've experienced that, and like when it comes to religion, right? Like for me, it was Catholic. Like I was Catholic, and I went through that whole process, right? Like I did the first communion and the whole thing, learn a bunch of prayers I didn't know what they meant. And then at 24, I came to encounter God personally, and I became a Christian, right? For you, what was it about Christianity that attracted you?
Honestly, nothing.
Mm.
What attracted me is everything else in the world, and then at the end, God decided to present himself
Yeah.
into a language of my understanding in Christianity, right?
Yeah.
But at no point in time was I ever looking into Christianity. And to this day, in my Christian faith, I will still say I'm most godlike when I'm practicing Ramadan, which I still do every year, because it's me learning how to fast and, being able to get in touch with my own discipline and my own understanding of it. The reality of it and my understanding of Christianity is that what can attract you to the world, right? Like, would you ask a child that? What attracted you to the world when this was your purpose?
Explain that.
What I'm saying is God will give you a ton of different pathways so that you have a better understanding of his math problem, the algorithm of what God is to you in your world, right? Mm-hmm. So God never has to present himself to me as, hey, I'm saying, here goes like these shiny trinkets, right? For me, God was like, nope, like try this pathway, try this pathway, try this failure, try this success. And at the end, you're going to have to sit down with your own meditation and your own thought process and, see what the purpose of it all is. And, that's when I was able to string things together and be like, wow, I mean, there's a common theme here,
Yeah.
And that is, the God that I was first introduced to and, the way that I'm going to, follow through with some of these principles.
Looking at different religions, right? Everybody most of the time believes in a God. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whether you are in India where they have over 3 million gods, right? Deities. Everybody believes in a God. What makes Christianity different is Christ. When I came to Christianity, which was a year ago, I've had to continuously ask Jesus to reveal himself to me, because I don't want to be hypocritical with my love. I absolutely know that he is real. It has been proven that he's real. I know that the word of God is fallible and that is absolutely his word. And so I've asked continuously to that I want to know him. I want a relationship. And the best way that I can shape it is, and I'm going somewhere with this,
Oh, I'm hearing.
a lot of times people say they know Jesus, and I put myself in that category before I became born again, right? But think about your favorite artist, right? Like, who, name a artist that you really enjoy.
Kendrick Lamar.
Okay, Kendrick Lamar. Do you know Kendrick Lamar personally?
No.
But you know of Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
You know where he's from.
I know he's
Right.
a good kid. Yeah.
Right. You know his music. You know little things about him, about Kendrick. Like if you were to have a conversation about Kendrick, you can flow in it. Right. You can talk about his viewpoints, what he believes is right. Like, because it's all in the music and we're just surrounded by it. I believe that that's the same thing with like Jesus, right? Like everybody knows of Jesus. We've heard about him. We know his viewpoint on things. We've read about him, right? Like we've heard him in music. It's probably the character that in music has been the most written about, But when we talk about knowing him, that's a whole different thing that people get confused with. Just because you know of him doesn't mean you know him. And I didn't know that until I started to meet him. And I was like, oh, I don't know you. I know of you. I know you died on the cross. I know all of these little things, right? But I don't know you. And so I'm curious, have you had any encounters with Jesus?
Oh yeah. I mean, all the time. Like, what's crazy is like in DC, I saw Jesus like, on the corner, selling African incense to feed his family, and finding a way to do that legally. Right. I saw Jesus every single, Sunday morning, handing out, free meals on Minnesota Avenue, to make sure that other people in their neighborhood were fed. And that was the only way. They were creating magic because they didn't have the money themselves. That bread came out of thin air by wishing and praying in the theory. Do you get my metaphor there?
Yeah. Right. Well, what I'm getting at is that you're seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're seeing the Jesus in people.
Right. Absolutely.
Which it's good because that's what we're supposed to do. That's how we treat everybody equally, right? That's how we treat everybody the same. How was it with your transition, as in coming into church? Or I know like a couple months ago you started to go back to a church, and we were talking about like that process, because at the same time, like I was starting, I think we're in the same, we've been in the similar one.
If we keep it a buck, right?
Yeah.
Whole buck, you were the person who introduced me that Jesus was still walking on earth, by watching your actions.
Wow.
Right? In no shape or form did you ever say, hey, Brandon, bro, like, I'm not going to rock with you if you don't come to the Christianity side or anything of that sort. Right? It was like, oh, man, my man, Eric, who's my favorite videographer on earth, decided to go a new path, and I'm interested in that path. Right? And then I'm watching what Eric's doing, and I'm saying, oh, man, those are the Jesus-like things that I remember from when, I was first, impressed upon me with, Christianity.
Yeah.
Right? And then from there, that's when I had a chance to go to, Impact, the church out here in Atlanta, and, was able to see Jesus in the pastor, and it wasn't because he was telling me about his understanding of the Bible. No, it was about him telling his understanding of the history of African Americans and how, we were, one of the crux, reasons for Christianity, and how it started off as, our religion being a part of it,
Yeah.
when I'm seeing that type of Jesus, right here in front of me, 100 yards away, right, that's when I started being able to say, you know what, let me see all the different times I see him in my life. And
Yeah.
that's back into it.
Bro, that's so good, because I do believe that that's an absolute fault that we're seeing in the world. We claim to be something that we really don't walk in, and we can see that like in music, right? Like you could say I'm a rapper, and or no, you can say you a gangster in your raps,
Say you
and then
again.
you ain't really living that life. You know what I'm saying? And I think with Christianity has been the same thing. A lot of people claim to be Christian, and the Bible speaks against that so much. It's such a reoccurring theme. Whereas, like, you are not if you are doing this, or if you're acting like this, and the whole thing is about being like Christ and seeing the Christ in other people. When we spoke about a week ago, no, sorry, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and we were on this very intense call, which we'll get to. And at the end of it, I asked you, I was like, hey, bro, just being in the spirit, I said, bro, have you given up your life to Jesus? And you hit me with something that it actually shocked me, because I knew you had been going to church, and I knew you had been interested, but you told me no. And then that night I asked you if you wanted to give up, if you wanted to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And there was no pressure. And you said yes, we prayed. And I think something beautiful happened, because even 2 days later, there was some crazy testimony that came with that. But how long would you say you've been walking with Christ? Would you say that was the start of it?
No, if we're just going to, be 100% honest,
No.
man.
Yeah.
I've been walking with Christ since I was born,
Mm-hmm.
and the truth is that, and this is something that I'm working to understand, and, hopefully, more people can get it, is that I am most Christ-like in my failures. The things that I'm doing today are easy. I'm telling you, like, honestly, walking on water does not seem difficult, right? When you've dealt with real problems with addiction and alcoholism, right? When you're at your lowest is when you are most godlike, because that's when you're really trying. At this point, like, I've tried so hard that I'm actually in the process of doing, right? That's why things just haven't come to pass yet, because I've done a lot of the trying. Like, I'm actually at the point where, like, oh, we're reaping some of the things that we've sown. But man, my actual walk with Christ is, when I was down and out, 8 of us in the 3 bedroom, right? And I stayed alive, right? 8 of us in a 3 bedroom off prior, no hot water, no electricity, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8 months at a time, you know, and like still being able to wake up every morning with gratitude, go into a job, that I'm taking showers right outside the job,
Yeah.
living, sleeping on floors. And yet every day, no one is, my nickname was Happy while I was homeless. Tell me about
Mm.
if I'm like, that's a real connection,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's easy nowadays. All right. So yeah, the journey started a long time ago.
So, what was there any difference then?
The difference is the structuring of the mind around it. Right.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was like, really going through things, I had no concept of what the understanding of what being godlike was.
Sure.
But really, when I sit down now and I have the chance to like look back on some of those actions, us being 8 in the 3 bedroom and like us sharing honey sandwiches,
Yeah.
8 grown men sharing honey sandwiches,
That's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
Like, that is a godlike aspect in the dark around candles. No tears. We are laughing, right? Like, that is a real godlike aspect, you
Yeah.
know? Um, yeah.
With George Floyd right now, that has been something that completely has shifted the world right now. Long overdue.
And I mean, I don't know if you saw, but last 2 days ago in Atlanta, we just lost another brother, Rashard Brooks.
No, I didn't. I did not know about that.
Yeah, my old gas station and Wendy's just went up in flames last night. The one that I was just telling you about, sleeping
Sheesh.
in a 3 bedroom. Yeah, our gas station, University Ave and Pryor, just burnt down last night.
That's crazy. How are you coping? How are you dealing with everything that's going on right now? Obviously, you've seen these patterns for a while, And in the position you are now, you are able to take action in a very structural way where you can actually really see change and aim for change. So it's two questions. How are you dealing with things right now? What is your perspective? And how are you looking to move forward as a community leader?
I mean, and that question right there to me is the solution of, or for my solution of why I, decided to get saved again, and give my life over. What we're asking right now for our community leaders, I think, is to be bigger than just human beings. All right.
Mm.
I really, with God giving me this platform, with a couple of these next steps that we have, I don't really have the luxury to fold like a regular human. I really have to carry myself, my team, our ideals to something that we can only symbolize as perfection. And I think the only thing that we could all gravitate around with perfection is, understanding a spiritual concept of it, like Christ. So, none of the things that I'm going to do is going to have, like, you might not see a quote from Christ, you might not see the little fish, none of that. But I guarantee when you ask about our business principles, is the Dream Pack a company that we can give our last dollar to and know that every single penny is being utilized the proper way? Yes, because they're going to be moving with Christ-like principles. Do I believe that the Dream Pack is going to be able to make, a sustainable impact on an environment for hundreds and thousands of years to come? Yes, because they are moving like Christ does. All right.
Yeah.
So, that's the reason why I realized that, okay, if this is really going to happen, then I have to give myself away. I have to operate on a higher plane, and there has to be a completely different set of principles that are guiding my morals and my checks and balances.
That night that I called you, and I really want to talk about that because I think it was such a crazy experience. And let's just get to it, man. I want to give my side of it and then your side of it, because it's two different sides and they both develop differently. So one night, so no, but it's actually very serious. It is a very serious thing. So that night, I saw the George Floyd video, and I hadn't watched it for, I think it had happened like on a Monday or Tuesday or something, and I watched it till like a Thursday, I don't know, Wednesday, 2 days later. And I, just like many people, I was like, man, I'm not gonna watch this. We just see it over and over again. I don't want to see death anymore, right? Like, I just don't want to see it. And sure enough, you're on Facebook, and boop, and I was like, well, we're here. Let me watch it. So I watched it, and immediately started to get angry and just very uncomfortable. And then by the end of it, after seeing 8 minutes and 40 some seconds of this man with his knee on another man that essentially caused him to die, I was extremely bothered. And normally what would happen in the past is you tune out, you're angry, you're upset, and you keep it moving. For me, being completely transparent, just keep it moving. There's so much content. This time around, I couldn't shake it. And I do believe it's the sensitivity of Christ in me. It was just different. It just hurt differently. And so I got down on my knees. I prayed. I said, God, I need you to tell me what's going on. I don't need the media to tell me what's going on. I don't need Facebook to I don't need those comments to tell me what's going on. I don't need nobody to tell me what's going on right now but you. We have this relationship, and I need to know, and I know you want me to know, because in his word he sees, you knock and I'll answer. You seek and you will find. And so I'm knocking on his door like, hey, I need to know. And so he started downloading a bunch of things. At the end of it, I was like, I felt the Spirit tell me, you have to share this with 2 specific people. You were one of them. So I said, okay. It was like 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. And I was like, man, maybe I'll just call him in the morning, you know what I'm saying? Business hours, you know? And it was like, no, like I have to get this out right now, because we have to talk. So I called you, we get on the phone. I start telling you everything that God began to download, right? And it started with like the 2 great commandments. Like, what are the 2 great commandments? Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? Like, it started there. That's what God first started to download. Then it went to generational curses, and that the officer had a past, George Floyd had a past, right? And that led them to that point, right? Then the Lord started to speak to me about what can you do? Like the question, what can you do, arrived. And then the thought process of like, oh yeah, we can teach people better, or we can get more degrees, right? Or we can get more degrees and get people out of jail, put people in jail, change laws and all. Yeah, you could do all of that. And then it came down to, that's cool, but people's heart is still going to be the same. Laws help, structure helps, but if people's hearts are not changed, we're still going to see outrageous things. So I shared all of this with you, and that was the night that I was like, bro, do you want to give up your life to Christ? Because I feel right now he's calling people to be leaders, so that he can bring justice through them, right? And I was like, specifically Black Americans right now that need justice. The Lord wants to bring justice. And so it's beautiful to even hear you talk about structure, because I'm like, we're both on the same page where it's bigger than us humans, right? Once you're going out in the field, you're fighting against principalities, you're fighting against darkness, right? Evil. And so that happened. You accepted Jesus that night, and then explain to me what happened afterwards, because this is your half. The second half is yours. So I delivered this message that I felt the Lord wanted me to speak to you.
That message, right?
And we said, all right, here you go.
I was like, all right, that's good. That was Thursday.
Yeah, that was Thursday. There you go.
Friday, I went to the marches, the protests. And, I've gone to the protests since, my whole family's just, very, we're pro about that, right? So I'm at the protest. And I'm actually there with, my second heartbeat, my girlfriend Chandler, right? And things start getting a little bit tense, like, things are getting thrown. And I remember being like, all right, I know I can do this. I'm not sure if, this is a good environment for her. There's a lot of people, a lot of variables. And around that time, I had a good friend call me. He was like, hey, I see you're out there at the protest and, you have a lot of weight on your shoulders. He understands like my capacity for empathy.
Yeah.
He was like, I actually have a shaman who's in town right now, and he's doing like these a retreat, an ayahuasca retreat, which is a very intense drug, right? Yeah. It takes about 10 hours generally, and then like followed up with another thing called changa.
And just for clarity, this is a hallucinogen. So
yeah, these are hallucinogens. These are right. And also for clarity that I've been sober for like 16 months now, right? So like, I haven't touched anything for a while. But he calls me, he's like, yo, I got this shaman. And this was something I've always wanted to just, tap into, right? Like, okay, let's see what's going on there. So, we literally leave the protest probably 15 minutes before like, all bedlam breaks loose and, things get set on fire. And then, we're just sitting there with a shaman, and we do my first ayahuasca trip. And we're in a room of, 20 people.
Yeah.
And it's a whole process. You blow, it's like, it's called snuff up your nose, and it like gets your equilibrium right. Then you drink this roux that coats your stomach. And it's about a 3-hour process before you even take the ayahuasca, because it really is a ceremony. You're actually at a location that is designated only for this. And so then like, we take the ayahuasca, right? After, I've been really, transformed into, giving my life over to God just a few days ago. And I'm at like peak of just winning, right? So I take the ayahuasca and I'm like, all right, God, like, let's see what this trip is about. I take the first cup, and so does everybody else in the room. Maybe about 8 minutes goes by and everybody starts throwing up. That's a normal thing. On ayahuasca, you're supposed to throw up all your impurities, right?
Yeah.
So I throw it, right? Get the impurities, and then you're supposed to go straight into the trip, right? Like, and it's supposed to be mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
But I take mine and like nothing happens, right? So I'm just like sitting there, and I'm very used to hallucinogens, right? Like in my past, bro, like me and hallucinogens. Like this.
Good.
So like I'm sitting there and I'm like, right? Like nothing's happening. Everybody around me is tripping their faces off. People are throwing up, screaming, crying. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And so the shaman comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, like you didn't tell me that you had done this before. Like I would have, given you something else." I was like, "I've never done this before. Like I don't know what's happening." So he gives me another cup, right? He's like, "All right, like you're gonna take this, but just be prepared." So I drink another cup, and this is like 3 hours into it at this point, right? Now, mind you, you are in a room that is like the size of like a living room with 22 other people who are out of this world. Like they're literally insane right now because they're on a drug.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there, just like looking around, like, what is happening? So another 3 hours goes by, nothing happens. And then probably around hour 6, that's when he gives me his third cup. And this is a cup straight from his personal, like, right, here you go. He's like,
got the secret weapon.
He told me, he said, "Look, I'm going to give this to you, and it's not the right thing to do, but it's going to work. It's just going to really be way too intense at first. So, take it." So I take the third cup, and like I start getting it, but like nothing really hits me. Nothing really hits me, right? It's like this punishment. So like eventually me and God started talking, and this is when I start like getting some of the feelings, and God's just like, "Look, there's really no outside. Like there's no miracles that happen outside of me. This is all like what I'm going to be allowing to happen." Right. Like that's what I'm saying in my head. Right. So the whole trip goes by and maybe I get like small effects, but I mean, I'm right next to people who are having life-changing experiences, and God is just sitting me in this, and it's just like, nah, this isn't for you. Right. And then, like the next day, like we do this changa session and we smoke DMT, right? And this thing like releases your dreams while you're awake. Yeah. And so, we do this changa, and that's when like I finally start having my conversation with God. And it's just him telling me like, "Look, all of this is nonsense. Like what I've given you is the masterpiece. Right. And, I want you to walk forward with that masterpiece. Right. And get out of this. Right. That's what he's telling me. Right. I'm like, all right, cool. Right. I had that little trip, but still nothing major. That night. Right. So this is hour 20. I've already done ayahuasca for 10 hours. I've done changa for an hour. That night, we finished it off by doing a quarter of shrooms. Right. And it's supposed to be like the whole, Yeah. And that night, man, God just came and grabbed me and was just like, "You think this is a game?"
Oh.
And, no, man, he was 100% serious. I mean, but
what happened with the colors? Remember you telling me about the colors.
So yeah, in the changa trip, right? I'm having this argument with God because God is showing himself to me in all white. But for some reason, I want God to show himself in purple. So we keep on having this argument, me and God. And God is like, "Bro, white is perfect, man." And I'm like, "Nah, I like purple." And then eventually, like, there's this noise that's going off because there's always a shaman around you. And so he starts hitting this bell and it's like, ding. But in my state of insanity, that ding is the perfect sound for purple, right?
Yeah.
And me and God both understand that this noise is obviously a purple noise, but God shows it to me in white again, right? God shows that noise that I thought we had a conversation about is going to be in purple. He shows it in white. And it was actually a really big breakthrough for me in that time. And I know this sounds trippy if you've never been in that type of mind frame, but it was just this acceptance. God is going to give me the masterpiece no matter what I ask for. So, within that last like trial, he showed himself in white with shades of purple. That sort of showed that he is the all-knowing, all right? My small lane might be purple, it might be correct, but it doesn't mean that I understand that, the total, palette of colors that's going on in the world. And so like, that happened, and that was an amazing thing. And then, that night we ended up being in a place that looked like I was in Noah's Ark. It was all wood.
But wait, before you move on from that point though, because I also people could twist this when you say white, right? Like I feel in my heart there could be a lot of people would be like, "See, that's the problem, white America," But white symbolizes purity, holiness.
Yeah, it was just solid light, really. right?
And you know, a lot of people that encounter have those radical encounters with God, right? Whether it's through dreams, whether it's that they died, and in the process of them being dead and then coming back to life in that little time, they go to heaven or they go to hell. Like there's many testimonies on that. And what they see in heaven is essentially white, but it's not just a white, it's like a pearl. It's like this
A pure concrete, not concrete. There's another verse like marble,
yes,
right?
there you go.
Marble-esque white that is the brightest. It's pure light, right?
That's
And
incredible.
so yeah, if you're thinking about that light, then you could also think about how ignorant it would be for someone to be asking for purple when you're seeing the
Yeah.
greatest color in the entire world, a color that you can only metaphorically explain as white, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not even white. And a person is sitting there from the bottom being like, boo, I want purple.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the insanity of it, but that is the human condition,
Yeah,
right? The
that's
condition
beautiful.
is telling yourself that you're always one step away from being ready to do the next thing,
Yeah,
right? You're always looking for purple when like this universe is
come on.
absolutely masterfully made,
Yep.
right? There's no mistakes in this universe. That's the craziest thing about it. There's not one mistake made. And so, yeah, like, within that, it ended up just being like an entire weekend that was just a shortened version of my life,
Yeah,
an abridged version of me being like radical and out of control and trying to rebel
yeah.
against a very open pathway for me. And so, towards the end of that trip was when I contacted you again and was like, no, we're going to do this again. I'm going to re-give my life over, and I'm going to do it with a different understanding, right? An understanding that just has a lot more facets to it and how I want to implement. In the reality, like that entire weekend was really spent building the dream pack.
In the Bible, it says when that you are a follower of Christ, like the ultimate thing that you have to do is to confess with your mouth and believe with your heart. I truly believe that that night when we had that conversation, you confessed with your mouth and you believed in your heart. And I think a lot of people downplay that. If you confess with your mouth and you believe it in your heart, God goes to work.
And the thing is that, and I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the first time that I said it because, obviously it's still all the exact same journey. But the first time that I was like, look, I'm ready to give
Absolutely.
my life over, right? That was just, I was saying it. But then, after the revelations of, somebody who's been through, 14 years of addiction and alcoholism, getting
Yeah.
completely sober and then going way extreme with that. And then really
Yeah.
just being able to sit down and look at myself and being like, oh, this is a really simple concept if God is asking me to grasp this. Like being Christ-like has nothing to do with some white man who has like 1970s rock and roll hair, right?
Come on. Yeah.
Being Christ-like is exactly as I said earlier. It's, giving out free food. You know what I'm saying? When you have the resources, it's asking, it's caring,
It's living like Christ.
it's living like Christ. It's
Being
simple.
like Christ.
So when I woke up the next morning, I mean, you talked about it. I mean, that's when I really, as people are hearing this Christian side, I want you to understand how my mind is working. I'm not just looking at the Bible. I'm looking at the Bible, and I'm also looking at Ray Dalio's book Principles, which helps create one of the largest financial like funders in the world. It's the exact same thing, right? It's like you'd be asinine, right, to look at all of these steps of success, right, and think that you are so above that, right, that you can circumvent these things,
Yeah.
right, when there's a very simple pathway to just be like, look, if I do this, I know that these results are done. And at this point, I've tapped out. And I've had to do that multiple times in my life. I had to do that with addiction. I had to do that with alcoholism. I've had to tap out and be like, oh, no, that's not me. Nah, y'all got that. You know what I'm saying? I leave that to you. And so you have to do the same thing with Christ in certain times. I realize I am not man enough to run the dream pack by myself. Right? I am way too
humility.
corrupt. A human being with the access to the amount of money we are going to have access to bring in, the amount of resources, as our human is very corruptible. But if we create these principles and we have principles that are uncorruptible, that are structured in cement,
Come
right?
on. Yeah.
Then only so much I can do to fail, right? I have everything resting on the the best person possible, man.
Bro, what you're saying is so powerful because a lot of the times as humans, and you see it time and time again through the Bible, from the start, from Adam and Eve, is that we believe we're right and we believe in our capacity and what we can do, and like it's about us and what I think it's right, which is where I think a lot of people go wrong. That's one of the reasons why I failed in my, let's say, my last relationship, right, of 6 years, because I had this basic understanding of what a good relationship was, and it was super tainted. I didn't have no basis for it, even in business as well too, like how to treat people or how to help people. I'm thinking, if I create a media platform that's gonna create income, and then because if I have income, then I can create this to help people, that's how really I'm helping people. And really, you're missing the heart issue. You can give people opportunities, and God revealed this to me. You can give opportunities, you can give people breaks, you can put food on the table, you can do all of these things. But if you're not addressing the heart issues, are you really making a change? If you're taking a kid from the hood and you're saying, okay, we're going to give you some tools to be able to learn, but then he doesn't understand humility, if he doesn't understand how to remove resentment, right, if he doesn't understand how to attack that anger that he carries because of the system, right, if he doesn't understand how to deal with that depression, right, with that trauma, everything is superficial.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited for you, bro, because like I said, you are one of the smartest guys I know. I know you truly, 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 truly care for the community. And like you said, now building that base in Christ, you know what I mean? I do believe that what you're saying, when with the dream pack having $1 million coming in, I believe it. I know it's gonna happen, but more importantly, I know that you're not gonna be tainted by the money.
I also like, it just goes back, and these are on the small things, but while I have a chance to say it, it's the same reason why I will humbly receive someone telling me that I'm intelligent, but you'll never hear me, just speak on my intelligence, because the reality of it is like, if we can just be the best reflection of, all of the good things coming around us, right? Then you always come out sounding like pure light. So yeah, I have a lot of conversations where people are saying, man, Brandon is extremely intelligible. But all I'm doing is constantly bringing in references from people like yourself, people like Charlie, people like everyone at once. And I just constantly am using that to be like, okay, if this is what God has given me, this is what I can give back out in this conversation. This is what I can give back out in this perspective, So like, it started just showing like how we're going to be operating as a whole. We are not the best company. I am not the smartest person, but I guarantee a couple of the principles that we're going to institute is going to have a great, result for everybody and a part of us.
You've been in this world for how long? 31, 33. Wait, 30. Oh, I'm about to say. Okay. 30. Yeah. You've been in this world for 30 years, man. You've experienced a lot. You've been homeless. You've gone into different career paths. You've been in different states, right? Like, you've lived in different places. I've met you here in Maryland. And so you've experienced a lot. With everything going on right now, what can you tell the youth specifically? Let's go specifically Black American, right? What can they do to be able to start moving towards a change in what's happening right now? What will you be their advice?
Yeah, I mean, this is really simple advice, and I'm still working it out. The whole meditation, the whole movement is, I'll try again. If you really look at the word try, and you looked at how it's used in sentences and like how it could be interchangeable, the only word try is ever really used with is connect. Like, hey, like, try this, taste this, or connect with this, or I'm thinking about trying that next, right? It's like you're asking for connection, right? When you're asking someone to try. And yet I think that in our society, we're constantly overlooking the godlike qualities in trying. And we just want, hey, what did that do? We're only looking at, hey, man, like, if you try and do this, man, you better get that $1 million or it doesn't work. Or if you guys are going to be doing protesting, it better make it so where no Black man ever again gets killed, or, your cause is for nothing. But I'm telling you, right, trying, that is the actual connection. If we look like into the Bible, and like when we're talking about most godlike moments, it's all about connection. When you're praying, you are tapping in you are connecting with God, right?
Yeah.
That is another example of trying. Like, as we are all looking at where we are in life, all I want you to do is just reframe some of your understanding of trying and realizing that that is the most godlike quality that you have. So every
Mm.
single morning that you wake up and you are willing to give something a genuine try, that is the only thing that's going to give you a result. And that's the
Wow.
only thing that's going to keep us pushing along. So I don't care what you do, bro. I like, people hated the Instagram blackouts. I loved it. People hated celebrating Obama's birthday on Trump's. I love it. I don't care what you do as long as you're trying, because that means I know you're doing something godlike in that moment, and we can figure out everything else after.
I wanted to show you something. I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen what's happening at the site of George Floyd at this moment?
No.
Okay, here we go. So this
Yeah.
is from the Christian Post. It says baptisms, miracles taking place in a revival site where George Floyd died. These are all people accepting Jesus, and is a preacher from Kenya, I believe. Yeah, here, check this out. That's crazy.
That is wild to see that that's the neighborhood that George Floyd was killed in.
This is what it's about.
Hmm.
Baptisms.
That's amazing.
Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
And at the exact same time, like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that. But, I'm not taking away any of the power from those who are going out and, protesting and fighting.
Oh, come on now.
It's all trying, right? In the
Absolutely.
exact same way I see God in that, I still see God in, 5, 6-year-old kids holding, I want to live posters. All right.
Yeah.
These are all the exact same acts, and each of these is really touched by, like, divine interpretation.
Yeah, I think with protest, what happens with protest, I think we need to see more of that in protest as well. You know what I mean? Because again, there's a lot of people in protest dealing with heart issues, right? Dealing with resentment, dealing with generational pain. And so when we see that anger manifest into what it does, who am I to say that's wrong, right? Because I don't know that pain. So I'm not condemning that action of burning down something because I don't know what that pain feels like. But having somebody there that can also, even if they fail, it's about trying to just say, hey, there is a solution for that pain. There is a way to deal with that pain. Let me tell you about Jesus, right? And even if you fail, right? And if that person is like, man, I don't want to hear that, cool. But now they've heard it. They've heard that Jesus loves them and that there is an answer. So I love what you're saying about trying, because yes, that applies to everything. I wanna leave off with something, and then I wanna let you also say your last words. I wanna leave off with the Great Commission. That's something that the Lord put in my heart. And that's what's happening in that site right now. So the Great Commission in Matthew's 28:19. This is the last verse on the book of Matthew's. It says, therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. So I believe that there's businessmen out there that are following this command. I believe that there's community leaders like yourself that are following this command. There's people like me in the content creation aspect of it, videographer, that are following this command. I believe we're going to truly, truly, truly see a revival in the world through people like yourself and others who are picking up the call and saying, you know what? I know I have a great calling over my life, but I know that I can't do it by myself. And so, Lord, help me. What do you want me to do? And so I'm excited. Any last words, bro, for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. Real simple last words, man. I heard somebody, actually, I think it is my pastor from Impact, and he said, man, thank God I don't look like what I've been through. Right. And so, while I am sitting here, don't get me wrong, I know I am a handsome man. I know I sound real intelligent right now, but in reality, like trials and tribulation are extremely real. And I'm sitting here as a example of what happens when you're able to restructure, refocus, put your mind on, the right things and, the person above us. I just know I've been the viewer looking at somebody like myself saying, there is no way this nigga knows anything about me. And I guarantee, man, like, reach out, man. These are real stories, man. This is real life. And every single one of us has the opportunity to make a huge change. So I challenge y'all, make your own story.